Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs, too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, March 3rd, 2024. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Steve, I'm doing good, man. I hope you're doing all right. It's like summer around here.
It has been warm. I didn't really get out today. Kind of recuperating from the back injury still.
Yeah.
From
that back.
Yep.
But,
and
nice
the
weather.
good news is today it didn't really twang too much, which is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Still a little leery about lifting things, so I think I'm probably going to need another day just to let it heal up. And yep. And of course, we got down there. Go ahead, Chris. You can start. We got our good friend Charlie Raymond in there. Hey, and so we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, all Bigfoot, Kentucky. This is the Bluegrass Bigfoot episode. So
Favorite.
And that is always fun. A lot of people have been asking me about what transpired in New Hampshire over the weekend. Because there's some films that were released on the BFRO Facebook page, and I actually got a call from Matt Moneymaker to see if I was available to check it out and get out there and put my expertise to it. And I'll say this: let's not get too excited. So, and I'm sure in the future week to come or so, maybe a couple of weeks, we'll have to take all the stuff we collected over that day and start disseminating it. Truthfully, I haven't even downloaded the stuff. I've been kind of resting my back from it because yesterday morning I did wake up and say I probably overdid just a little bit walking around too much, but
yeah, that was like a pretty good drive for you too, bud.
What? Sitting doesn't bother it. Sitting actually makes it feel a lot better, strangely. Walking doesn't really, but it's only when I lift things that I was feeling or bending a certain way because it was a strain. It wasn't really a muscle pull or anything like that. So that's the strains are very. They're very strange because you can feel perfectly good, and the first time you go to lift, it's back. So you gotta really, of course, the neck. Of course, everybody knows I've had issues with my neck ongoing for a while, and my neck was cranking today. So I will say my neck was cranking.
You're falling apart too, man.
Well, back in the day, I didn't have to take my walker into the woods with me. But anyway. But I'm the only old bastard out there with a flare on my walker.
I'm sure there's somebody.
So anyway, as usual, what we'll do is our usual roll call for the night, and then we'll get on to business today.
Yes.
So first in is Pat Collins, who said first in, turned on the lights. Well, thank you, Pat. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Again, our good friend Relic Hominin popped in to say have a great show,
Really?
Across the pond.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the replay, bud. Good to see you.
And Chris says probably just more footage of Chris.
No, we wouldn't do that to you.
Hey, we got Walter Kroll in there. Hey, I think Charlie snuck in early too.
Hey, Charlie. Yay.
Daniel Weeks is there. Don Neal, he's one of Charlie's guys. Good to see you, Don. Lester Taylor in the house. OT's back.
Lester.
Poor OT, he has been sick. So OT, if you're not here in chat tonight, we understand and we hope you feel better, brother.
Get to feeling better.
We got Low Rider in the house. Sharon, of course, in the house. Who else? Here we go. Scrolling. Tom Connolly is in the house. Tom, good to see you. Grasshopper. He's apparently being Canadian now, eh? Eyes in the Woods. What's going on, Eyes in the Woods? Martin Stilts, Hominid Academia. Good to see you, sir. Don Fuller, there's the man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, don't forget Henry May. I see Henry May.
Henry May's in the woods. Did I skip over Henry May? I did. Henry. Oh, my goodness. There it is.
The chat is hopping, but I'm trying to keep up here.
That's right.
I did see.
Jay Fritz is in the house as well. John, Sasquatch Wizard Adirondacks, good to see you. I'm still listening to your stuff, and I'm listening to Bill's stuff as well, John. So, who else? I know there was somebody in here we didn't see before.
Hi, Chris.
Robert Dendoven, good to see you. Or Duvin, I'm sorry, excuse me. And he's a channel member. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Finding the trackway. There's Bill hiding out there. Angel Nolan, good to see you. Another channel member.
Angel.
June Ninja 1985. Because that Bigfoot looks scared.
Ninja.
Yeah.
He does have a look on his face, doesn't he? Oh.
Well, the actual thing he hears something, and he's responding to what he hears.
Oh, there's Charlie over there.
Could be Charlie's, stepped on a twig or something. Of course, we got C Cherokee in the house as well.
C Cherokee.
Sharon, Arthur Watch, traveling with Jim Landy. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Jim. Glad to have you.
And this is quite the skill to be able to do this. Jen's in the house there. Good to see you, Jen.
I'm lost.
And Gary Johnson Sr., good to see you, Gary. Pine Island Research. Jeff, happy Sunday, you squatchy bastards.
Thanks, Jeff.
Daniel Weeks, we said, Gerald Kusamar, good to Commissar. I'm sorry, excuse me for mispronouncing that. Gerald Commissar, good to see you, sir. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
It's always good seeing new names to the program here.
Yes, it is.
And he's from E-Town, Kentucky. Wherever
wow.
You know what E-Town is. Yep.
Welcome,
Jerry,
neighbor.
Jerry M also in the house. Good to see you, Jerry.
Okay.
Don Gumow, of course. What's a show without Don? Don's been a staple here lately. Stephen Ward, another channel member. Good to see you, Stephen. Thanks for rolling in. Just Steve, another channel member, also rolling in.
Welcome.
Gonna watch in the morning. We appreciate that. Mary Roller. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Mary, I gotta tell you, has got some great property behind her house that we've been on several times out in Chautauqua County. So really, really cool place.
Yeah, I got lost a while ago.
I'm just trying to find anybody up. Jay Pachochin's in the house.
Jay, welcome.
Pennsylvania 222 in the house. Yay. Good to see you. Of course, another channel member, Mitch Hargrove, is in the house. Good to see you, Mitch. Yep. Mitch. Oh, wait, what's a show without Little Kilroy?
That's right.
So, man, it is a full house in here tonight. Blake Burrows in the house as well.
I see Jay Fritz. I don't know if you mentioned Jay Fritz or not, but hey.
Yeah, Jay. I think I did. Jay Fritz is in the house. Okay, so I think we've gotten through. If we missed you, we apologize.
Blake Burrows. Blake.
Yep, Blake Burrows in the house. Yep, that was the last one I said, I believe.
That's it. Yeah,
that's it.
I've reached the bottom of the page now.
Myself as well. And with that, we take a sip of our tasty beverage of tonight. And of course, for those wondering, sorry, Em and Chris, it's not peach Snapple. It's back to the Mountain Dew Code Red.
Code Red. Okay. Grasshopper, chopped liver. Okay. We appreciate you, Alan. Good to see you here, man.
Here's the funny thing. That may be a new segment. What the hell was Steve drinking this week? Because I always have something different almost every week. So,
well, I'm either drinking tea or ski.
Tea or ski.
Tea or ski. Yeah.
So, and also one new one just popped in. Okay. The tackle technician. Or the tackle tactician. I'm sorry.
Fishing. Wow. Cool. Welcome.
But he likes fishing. Just a thought. Zach's in the house. Yeah. Kaiju Ninja just said poppled. Yeah.
Oh, there's Charles.
Yep, Charles Kimbrough in the house as well.
Charles.
Welcome, Charles. All right, let's do this. So, first of all, Charlie, how the hell have you been?
I've been busy.
I see that, man. I see that. You're doing a ton of conferences.
Yeah, a bunch of conferences, working full time, keeping up with my wife, keeping her happy. That's a full-time job.
Happy wife, happy life.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and of course, how's Whiskey doing?
Whiskey's good. She's right over here watching me. We take her squatching anytime we go. We take our dog.
Yep.
I know, Bigfoots don't like dogs, but they're a great asset to take. Squatching.
And I remember meeting Whiskey when she was like just yay big. That was pretty cool. Yeah. She was adorable. I think you only had her like a few weeks when I met her. And
she was little, and we would take her in the trail, and we take her to this day. Every time we go, we take her, and she hears stuff and smells stuff that we don't. Right. And when she alerts, then you get your therm out and you start therming in that area when she starts growling.
Right. So, and that's a great tool. If you have a dog, you can take out there to do that. So yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Your channel's been huge lately. A lot of great interviews there and a lot of great content there. And I see you're dabbling with long form video shorts and stuff like that, which is all, great stuff. So it really, you're starting to build the presence there, and that is awesome. We love that. Make sure we get your link on our channel too, as well. Your channel listed on our channel friends as well. So that way people can pop over there. But your channel link is in the description below. Now, one thing I did have a problem with was finding your books on Amazon. So, if there's a way people, you have written a book or two, I believe. Because I know I have one of them. Yeah, I have the one. This one. Yeah. And where can people grab that?
Amazon. It's Bluegrass Bigfoot Encounters with the Kentucky Wildman.
There you go. And what I'll do is after the show, I'll make sure the link is down below in the show description. So, and it is a great read. a lot of what you do is a lot of interview stuff about stuff, but you also go out and investigate, where these people have had sightings. And so what are some of the best areas in Kentucky, do you think, that you can find Bigfoot possibly residing in?
Well, I can't, I hate to say it, I can't give you my honey holes where I go.
Sure.
Otherwise, it gets saturated with people making wood knocks calls, hunters.
Right.
So I don't really get specific spots, but I can tell you counties.
Well, how about this? How about this? Daniel Boone National Forest, good or not good?
Yeah, very good. It runs up pretty much the entire state, right through the middle. A lot of reports all through there. We live next to the forest. Lots of reports there. And if you're from Kentucky, you'll know these areas. Anderson County, Ohio County, Trimble County, Bullitt County. They're all over Kentucky. Kentucky is a hotbed for sightings. And I tell people this all the time. The reason why we have so many sightings is because people in Kentucky live in their backyard, and Bigfoots live in, backyards of people. We live side by side with the creatures. And it takes two things, as to have a Bigfoot report or sighting. You need a Bigfoot and you need a witness. And we live with the Bigfoots. Like if you went up to Canada, Pacific Northwest, there's probably more Bigfoots, but they're not as reported as much because people don't live, everywhere in Canada like we do here in Kentucky. So any road you turn off, if you turn off a road, you're in the woods. So that's why we have so many reports here.
And didn't Daniel Boone have a sighting himself? There was some encounter he had as far as We gotta get that one up for the our Chris. We got to get one of those for our storylines there.
Yeah.
One of our
I'll
stories.
work on that next. Yeah.
Yeah, I could. And if you want me to talk, I mean, I researched the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We
lay it on,
live
Charlie.
not far from where he supposedly had the sighting. But the story goes he killed a 10-foot tall hairy man called a Yahoo.
Yep.
There's controversy over that because his favorite book was Gulliver's Travels, and the giant and there was the Yahoo. And so people think, oh, it's just because he liked that book. Well, no, I think it's because he used the name Yahoo because when he encountered the giant, that's what he knew as a term for a giant.
Exactly.
But where that had possibly happened is literally behind me, not that one, but about 4 to 5 miles behind me.
Wow.
Called Lubbergrud Creek. That name is in Gulliver's Travels as well. Lubbergrud Creek. They changed the name a little bit. And Daniel Boone lived in Boonesboro, Kentucky, which is the opposite direction, about 15 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the late 1700s, some Shawnee stole some of his horses, went up to Ohio with them, and Daniel Boone and his son was an excellent marksman like Daniel, went after their horses. And they came right near Clay City, where we live now, up to Mount Sterling, and they went up to where the Licking River meets the Ohio River. And when they got there, there were like 500 Shawnee waiting for them. So they wisely turned around. Well, a lot of times Daniel and his son wouldn't hike together. They would hike separately to look for resources. So on the way back, they're on two separate ridges, and he hears his son fire multiple shots, which is unlike his son. You know, excellent marksman. Why is he following multiple shots? Daniel rushes to the other ridge, and this 10-foot tall hairy creature has got his son up and throws him to the ground. Daniel gets close enough to shoot it in the face, actually hitting it in the eye, killing it instantly. And I've heard this story for years, and I always wondered, how could you kill a Bigfoot? You know, you hear stories nowadays, people shoot them and they just run off.
Right.
But back then with a crude weapon, but then as I researched it more and I found more reports of this, supposedly he hit it in the eye, which is a weak spot to the brain, which makes sense. He goes over, he revives his son. He takes his tomahawk and he cuts open the breastplate, the area, to, I guess, to retrieve the bullets. And the odd thing was he said it had one solid bone. It wasn't like ribs like we have. It was one solid breastplate. And the bone had hit it and went around it, which would explain a lot about people shooting them. And, you know, that was odd. And then they took their walking sticks and they laid it out next to the creature. And then when they got back to Boonesboro, they estimated at 10.5 feet tall. And that's the Yahoo. And again, I've got stories all around here. Just again, a couple miles behind me is a trailhead called Pilot Knob. And it's well documented that Daniel Boone first saw Lexington, Kentucky, or the Bluegrass region from Pilot Knob. There's a placard on the trailhead, you know, talking about Daniel Boone. In fact, there's a good friend of mine. It was kind of funny. They went to hike that trail one day, and they're hiking up the trail, and this reenactor dressed as Daniel Boone passes them. And he goes to his wife, "Hey, that was Daniel Boone." And it was he must have went up there for a selfie, you know. So Daniel Boone's been all over this area. It's well documented. The Red River, Teddy Roosevelt wrote about Daniel Boone camping on the Red River. Again, that's only like a mile back here from me. So I truly believe if he did kill this thing, it was near me, near this area.
That is wild.
That would be neat if the creek still exists. You know, you could track the creek there. And
now, I always wonder if Daniel Boone had any stories that people later on said, "Oh, they were a bit exaggerated." Like, let's put the Bigfoot story aside, and let's say some of his other stories he told. Was he ever known to exaggerate stories at all? You know?
Only thing I remember hearing about this encounter, he was reluctant to tell it because people laughed at him. In fact, is on this one occasion, there was, I guess, sitting around a campfire, and someone said, "Daniel, can you tell us that story?" And somebody chuckled, and he goes, "Well, I'm not telling it." So later that evening, when that person went to bed, they asked him again, "Can you share this story?"
Right.
And again, he was kind of reluctant to share it. He wasn't. I don't think he was proud of it, from my understanding.
Well,
killing
that says mountains right there, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not out there saying to everybody, "Well, I got the Yahoo." No, I don't want to talk about it. And you got to kind of force them out of it,
Right. Here's an interesting thing. It's kind of a funny story. So at this little motel that we own here, we've got Bigfoot stuff everywhere. And at one point I was selling these Bigfoot cutouts, you see everywhere. And
sure.
Some guy comes up to the office and says, "Hey, I want to buy one of the cutouts." Well, I always want to know why. Why do you have a Bigfoot cutout? If I go by your house and you got a Bigfoot cutout in your yard, I knock on your door because I want to know, did you have a sighting?
Right. Yeah.
I'm always intrigued by that. And he goes, "Well, I grew up in this area. I lived here my entire life." And he pointed out the window, the front here across the parkway. There's a ridge. You go, "See that ridge over there?" He goes, "My uncle owned it, and his kids used to play on that ridge. And but if you go down this road," he goes, "Do you know where Lubbergrud Creek is?"
Yeah.
I said, "I've heard about it." He goes, "We were down by Lubbergrud Creek about 40 years ago, playing hide and seek, and I was squatted down in these bushes, and there's a full moon out. I'm just sitting there, waiting for one of my friends to run by, and this big hairy creature runs right in front of me as I'm hiding in the bushes. And I could tell by the moonlight, it was covered in long hair, massive. And of course I froze. And my friends finally were calling for me. And I finally came out when they started calling for me. He goes, "I think I just saw a Bigfoot as a young boy, right down the road by Lubbergrud Creek." Now I know that's 200 years apart. Daniel Boone was late 1700s. So the point of that is, I believe in certain areas in Kentucky where they've lived for many, many years, decades, even centuries, they're still in these same areas because I've documented reports in the same counties over decades of the same physical characteristics, the same behaviors. And I always tell people, I don't think they migrate. They stay put as long as they have shelter, food, and we're not encroaching on them. And in Kentucky, we've got lots of that area where, again, we're living kind of side by side, but I really believe they kind of stay put, and it's based on witness testimony. And I always tell people, witnesses tell us a lot. We don't have a lot of pictures of Bigfoot. We don't have a lot of videos of Bigfoot, but we do have our witness testimonies, and they tell us what they look like. The witnesses tell us how they act. The witnesses tell us where they live. So witnesses are crucial to our research. So that's kind of what I specialize in, is interviewing witnesses.
Right. And, their behaviors, what's always amazed me is about interviewing witnesses is that the similar behaviors the Sasquatch all have. It's not like you get a very oddball one. It's always pretty consistent how they react in certain situations. And that amazes me.
Yeah. The other thing that I picked up from, and I just, I tell people this, I've been doing it for 3 decades, over 500 credible reports I've documented. And I'm a no nonsense guy. And anybody knows me, I throw out bogus stuff all the time. Even if it's borderline, I throw it out. I want to know for sure where they live. I want to know for sure if it's a credible witness, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I can tell you from interviewing multiple witnesses who had clear, close encounters, daytime, face-to-face encounters, the one thing I've learned in Kentucky, at least, they looked human-like. They had wide hooded noses, the large inset eyes, a heavy brow, sagittal crest, long hair, everything else typical Bigfoot. But the key would be the wide hooded noses. It wasn't a gorilla nose. I very rarely get somebody saying to me, the face looked like a gorilla. most of the time they say it looked human-like, but massive.
Yep. Yep, exactly. And even I think the Bigfoot on our graphic today is, I still don't think the mouth is completely correct. The nose seems about right. It's not necessarily flattened like a gorilla nose, but it does have some wide nares on the nostrils. The brow ridge looks pretty good. It's kind of got a sagittal crest, but it's kind of an odd angle. But not bad. I mean, not bad for the generative.
Can you see your graphic above my head there? My that's from my website and my book.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right
see
to
that?
your,
So Terry Thomas is a graphic artist in our organization who will talk to the witness and do a sketch of what the witness saw. That graphic is one of them. And if you look at the nose, see the nose on it? I've actually had at least 2 people criticize me for that.
We can't see the nose.
You can't see the nose from that?
No, that's all right.
But it's wide hooded nose. And he said, why did you use an African-American, for your graphic? I go, I didn't use an African-American. That's what witnesses describe was a wide, flat, hooded nose. It just happens to be dark skinned, but that's kind of what witnesses have told me. I didn't just make it up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think the nostrils on this one, our graphic is kind of flared up a little bit more than it should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
But not by much, but it's flared up a little bit. I think there's a little more of a hood on the nose than there is on this one. Than there should be, but not too bad. Like I said, I don't like the mouth necessarily, the shape of the teeth. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. I think they're a little less pronounced in the mouth than this particular picture is, from what I've heard of witnesses. But what's always very prevalent is generally from the nose up when Bigfoot witnesses see. So that would tell me that the mouths are very similar to ours. And that what they're noticing is the differences is from the mouth up, and because it's a little bit different. It's not quite ourselves, but it's different.
So I get thin lips, very thin lips. They see the teeth, they're usually wide.
Chris, the picture Charlie's talking about is in our graphic there above his, when he said above his head.
Oh,
he doesn't mean on his. It's the one.
I'm looking at behind him over there on the wall. There.
Right.
Oh no, not that one. The one on your graphic, Kentucky Bigfoot. Yeah. That's the one that's on my book and also the website. Mm-hmm. Now that one, the eyes are a little bit small, to be honest.
Yep.
Usually people say large eyes, but that nose is what we get a lot. And I tell people this all the time. It's just my speculation on these things, and nobody really knows, but I think they're more closely related to humans. Because of their intellect as well. I'm more flesh and blood. It's a type of relic hominid. It's not so much paranormal, supernatural. I know there's different theories out there on all that. I just think they're highly intelligent. They have adapted over thousands of years to elude us, to evade us, avoid us, and they develop better senses than us.
Yeah,
maybe even their sixth sense is better too. All that good stuff. And they're the ninjas of the forest, and they know when you step out of your car. I was watching a show last night. We were watching Bigfoot documentaries, and I'm not going to name them, but they got flashlights. And every time they hear something, they got their flashlights lighting up the woods. I'm like, a Bigfoot's not going to stay there if you're flashing, a white light around.
Yeah.
Go out there a little bit more discreet. You don't got to be quiet. They know you're there, but gosh, if you're lighting it up with a giant light, they're not going to stick around.
Sure.
So
exactly.
And that's just from my experience of doing a lot of research. You gotta be non-threatening. You got to go out there. Don't be too invasive. Yeah. Do some things like laughter, play music, cook food, do your normal things you do. And we found great success having interactions with these creatures. If you're non-threatening, doing your normal thing, and then every now and then you try some knocks or some calls or try some different things to have an interaction with them, it just that has worked well for me.
in my sighting that I had, the first one I had, I basically caught the Bigfoot spying on our campsite. We were all there making noise, eating food, laughing, kind of debriefing what the previous 3 hours, 4 hours, what we experienced, what we were hearing. And then I tootled off to get batteries to my car. And then there it was off the side of the road watching our campfire. And it was surprised to see me because I put my light on it and it froze and I froze from there too. And I think you're absolutely right. The more nonchalant and business is normal, the more curious they are. They have this inane curiosity, as do all the primates of, hey, I hear something out there. Let me go check it out. And I've always said that you hear a boom and all the animals in the house go scampering and we're the ones that go, what the hell was that? And we start to look out the window. We go towards it. And, think about that. Think about 9/11. How many people, when those planes crashed into the towers, people started, the people that weren't in the towers, people that were around the towers started walking towards the towers to see what was going on. And when in the mind, if you knew it was going to happen an hour to an hour and a half later, you wouldn't go anywhere near there. You'd be going the other way. Right. So it just shows that the curiosity factor, which is not only in Homo sapiens, but it's also in primates, is huge. And I do believe that they are closely related to us DNA wise, as is the chimpanzee, but where they actually fall on the spectrum, because nobody's ever seen them use a manufactured tool similar to the chimpanzee. They've seen them use some rudimentary tools, but never enough to put one and one together and actually fasten a tool together, except in some extremely rare reports, which the authenticity can be kind of
you're talking
debated.
about the Ivan Marks thing where they're digging clams with a stick. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Ivan
that's not too unheard of though, because chimpanzees will use sticks to go down the anthills to pull out the ants and eat the ants.
Yeah. I can share real quick 2 stories.
Sure.
Of 2 witnesses. One of them is an old story. It's on the BFRO's website, and it's also on my website. I interviewed them as well. 2 young boys. I'm trying to think of what county. It doesn't really matter right now. But anyway, they heard this banging sound. They walked around this house. Again, these houses are in the woods and such. Right. And they look around the corner, and there's a Bigfoot taking 2 pieces of firewood and hitting one of them and turning over the soil like it was looking for grub. And they watched it flip the soil over using 2 pieces of wood. And that one, again, is on the BFRO site. It's on my site.
Sure.
I interviewed him. He went on video. He's on my YouTube channel. You can watch him talk. He's like, I don't know, 60 years old now, but he's telling that story from when he was a kid. I got another story that Terry Thomas did a sketch of. And it was a hunter was up in his stand. He started hearing some strange sounds, some whooping sounds. And he thought, who in the world is on my property? He was getting angry that somebody's on his property early in the morning ruining his hunt. And then he heard some other odd sounds and he got mad and he made a loud whoop back. And that's when the thing came off a ridge about 100 yards away, like a bulldozer coming down, breaking branches. And he thought he was going to see a bear. So he takes his scope and he looks through his scope over at it. And this bear stops at a tree, stands up, broad shoulders, and then looks around, which is crazy. You hear it all the time. This guy's in camo up in a tree, right? That Bigfoot looks around and pinpoints him, looks right at him in his scope. And the guy said, I started shaking so bad, I couldn't keep my eye on it through the scope because I'm shaking. But he noticed the Bigfoot reached up and grabbed a branch and broke it off the tree and was holding that branch like as a weapon or maybe going to tree knock or whatever. Sure. But again, he was using a stick or a branch. And then at some point, the Bigfoot gets pissed and leaves. The guy was pretty shaken up over it. But that was another hunter, too, that I can tell you many stories of hunters that don't shoot them. They're just caught off guard. They're in shock. They're trying to wrap their brain around, what did I just see?
Sure.
Is it a person in a suit? I can't shoot it because I could kill somebody. And
that's the thing.
It happens so quick. They don't shoot them, and which is good. But
yeah, that was police officer Brian Goslin up here in New York back in the 70s. That big flat on Abear Road. He had one with the flashlight and the gun right there, and it is 15 feet away from him as it passed by the front of his car. And he was like, "Do I shoot it?" Well, his police training kicks in. What if it's this? What if it's that? And finally, it's not making any threatening move towards me, so I really have no reason to shoot it.
Right.
And that's why he took a lot of heat for not taking it down. But he explained that, hey, it didn't do anything to threaten me, so I don't have any right to shoot it. That's just police training. Before I get to Chris's comment, tackle technician with their strength, they really need to create tools. I think that is just a natural being. I mean, you think about it, do orangutans really need to make intricate blankets or pillows when they nest? Not really, because the chimpanzees don't do that and they build nests, and gorillas do the same. But the orangutans actually have a much more complicated method of how they go to bed. So I don't know.
Yeah, they probably don't need clothing because they've got plenty of fur, hair to keep them warm, and they probably don't need to make tools because they are powerful and strong and quick and could kill a deer pretty easily and eat it quickly. And all this is speculation. Like, are they purposely not making tools or making fire because it would give away their location if they did that? Do they really need that? Maybe they don't need it. Why bother inventing fire? Because they've got hair. They don't need to cook their food because they're satisfied eating it fresh. I mean, raw.
But I would think like in New York, when it gets down in Vermont, especially, like say they go to the Green Mountains in Vermont from the Adirondacks during the winter months, because we seem to have a decline in that. It still gets below zero, and it still gets to, like 0 degrees. Not this winter, strangely, but in those cold snaps, when it gets to 18, 15 degrees up, and especially even colder in the mountains, why wouldn't they use fire? Because that's going to affect them. They're warm blooded. So that's why, to me, it's a toss up. I really don't think they can make fire because we've never, observed them do that or use it or find their camps or anything like that. But it's all up for grabs. And that's the interesting thing about this mystery is what the really fine minutia, aside than your basic primate functions, the rest is all conjecture. I mean, we understand why they walk away. We understand why they don't make a fuss in certain areas. But what we don't understand is, their family structure and their mating structure and their offspring structure and all that. One other thing, somebody else, has there ever been a report of a Bigfoot using fire? Not that I've seen, or stealing a fire from a campsite. Not that I have heard. I don't believe Charlie's heard one of those either.
No.
I did read a report about the creature was interested in the fire, but it didn't try to build the fire up by adding any wood or anything onto it. But it was interested in the fire.
Yep.
The guy left his campsite.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, the creature went there and was like checking out the fire ring.
Right, and there is an innate interest. We had a huge campfire going when we were debriefing, and then I went out to walk out, and whatever this was, that's what drew it right to it, was this campfire. It was like, oh, this is interesting, and we're all laughing, and probably it's smelling that wafting food, the hot dogs. A couple people are cooking burgers or coffee. Years later, I had Mike Ann making cookies in a bag, and I was like, how the hell are you doing? I'm like, well, you could smell them. The whole camp was chocolate chip cookies. I'm like,
oh, wow.
We've had reports. I've had it happen to me where one we think came into our campsite at night. I'll just share it real quick. We're 4 miles back. There's 3 of us. We're down in this holler. There's some caves around us. And I put my recorder over in a cave to capture any audio through the night. We're each in a separate tent in our own sleeping bags. And around 3:30 in the morning, I was awoken by some howls in the distance. And I'm laying there. I heard those howls. I go, oh, that's great. I got my recorder going. And then I hear something walk in our camp, shuffle its feet, a couple steps, and then I heard a whistle. Just a straight line whistle, quick, which we believe they do. Here, I've heard it a lot, and it's a straight whistle, and then the footsteps stopped, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. So one thing I'm leaving out in that story, I fell asleep after the howls. The whistle and the footsteps, I did not hear live in person. The whistle and footsteps were Monday when I went back and I downloaded my audio to my computer, and I'm listening, and I hear, after I fell back asleep, I heard the footsteps and then the whistle on my recorder. And I talked to my buddy Brent. I go, did you hear those howls last night? He said, yeah. He was awoken too. And then we also heard something mess with the fire, the grate on the fire. There's a little fire pit there. And something was messing with the grate on the fire pit. Like, we cook food. Do they come in looking for food, scraps or something, because he was messing with the grate? But it's almost like we thought two of them were in our camp. And because maybe we turned in our sleeping bags, we woke up, one whistled to the other one, hey, shh, quiet. Because that straight little whistle was like, kind of like, be quiet. And the footsteps stopped. We only speculate that's what happened, from the audio. But I just wanted to share that story because it was messing with the fire, the grate to the fire. Like he was intrigued by it.
Cool.
They definitely like. My second sighting was coming out of a tent in the middle of the night to use a tree. Mm-hmm. And there was a 5.5-foot juvenile, not 50 feet from where I was. And as soon as it started to hear me. So when I got out of the tent and looked, it was in the process of bolting out of the area. So I think, and it was getting very close to the campsite. Again, the first sighting, here's one looking at our campsite. How many stories do we hear of people seeing a Bigfoot in the flames of a fire at a campsite going, look at the edge of the woods over there. Look, it's standing there. And then it's notices it's being noticed, and it turns around and walks back deeper into the woods where it can't be seen. So very, very interesting stuff. That is awesome.
Yeah. So the whistles, someone, I think it was Mary said she's heard whistles, and a lot of people have heard whistles. And I'm going to share this because Steve will get a kick out of it. Recently, someone said, are there many birds that have heard whistle? Are there birds at night that make whistling sounds? And I not jokingly, was honestly said, the whippoorwill, as we all know.
Do you mind?
Steve was on one of our expeditions, and
the
whippoorwill will not shut up. Right? Tell it, Steve.
So there's Ron Bull, and you can listen to the recording. There's Ron Bull. I'm going to tell, it was like kidding around. I'm going to go tell this little bastard to, piss off. And Ron's like, it ain't going to work. And I go over there and you hear, and you hear me go, do you mind?
Yeah.
Silence. Yeah. I come back. I'm like,
Usually they're pretty quiet at night, but y'all had upset that one. He was letting you know. He was giving you what for.
Yeah. Don there said blackbirds might make some noise. Birds, if you get too close to them, I've had this happen. If they're roosting or whatever, their nests, and you get too close, they will whistle, make noises. It's not as common. You don't hear them as much. But the Bigfoot whistles I've heard in conjunction, I can give you some really good examples.
Yep.
They're typical straight line whistles. It's a
yep.
And then you hear another,
maybe two
over there.
Yeah, two together.
Two, like letting you know humans are coming down the trail, be quiet, and then they get quiet. It's kind of like we got humans here. It's almost like the one tree knock to kind of let another Bigfoot know we got humans present, lay low. I've also had knocks and whistles together. The Girl Scout incident where we had a Bigfoot come up to myself and some Girl Scouts, and we heard a knock and whistle together. And not many animals knock and whistle together. You know, and the same thing with the whoops. You get knocks and whoops together, combinations. There's a lot of audio recordings of the knocks and whoops together.
Well, Charlie, I've noticed that sometimes prior to a sighting around the areas where I go, if you're walking up, you know, back in the woods a couple of miles or so, and you walk up on one or maybe more than one, you hear a loud snap of a twig, like a maybe 1 inch or 2 inch twig or branch. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Oh yeah, and even more so than that, the loud knock, the home run knock, the bam, and everything gets quiet. You know,
we've had that happen on back in 2019. We were in Sarasota County, Lincoln Mountain, and we had gotten a knock, a pretty loud one. Of course, didn't come over our mics for the podcast because they have a lot of background. We were using the phone to broadcast, so it has a lot of background noise, you know, noise decluttering, I should say. So the background doesn't come in as often, but you know, you amplify it, you can hear the actual knock that, and it was unprovoked. And just a few months ago, we were in Whitehall, and this was actually a response to me whistling. I did a whistle and I started talking. Come on, you know who I am. I come up here every year. And this was what came through. And that's what came through. That was that was repeated twice, but it was a single whoop. And we were just happy that the documentarian had his recorders going. So that's why it was so cleanly made. And he was actually they were a lot closer to where that emanated from. They were actually closer to where that emanated from. It was Alex Petikoff, Eric Swanson, Mike Lucci, Finding the Trackway, who's in chat. Jen was back at the camp with me, and Jim Lansing as well. Jim's in chat, but so you're right. You know, I think there is something to the whistling. Absolutely.
The whoops that you just recorded, I recorded 3 in Kentucky, and I can bring it up on my phone and play it. I was with Tom Shea. He's well known for his casts. He has the largest cast collection in Kentucky. I was at his research location, just him and I. It was like 3 p.m, beautiful day, deep in the woods. We made a fire. We're cooking bacon, not for us. We're cooking the bacon to hopefully bring a Bigfoot in. But the
nice benefit to that is when you're done with that experiment, you get to eat the bacon.
Yeah, ours was extra crispy, but we waited and we're just sitting there. And my recorder is a little digital recorder, and the key to the recorders is getting really good mics. I've got omnidirectional mics, pick up in any direction, and I hung it over in the tree line away from us. And we heard it sound like a rock hitting a tree. We never did see it. And then we picked up these whoops, which I'm hoping I could play them for you. They sounded just like yours. It was 3 of them.
Yeah, that was actually a single. Unfortunately, when I put them on the StreamYard, it loops them. So it's just a single whoop, and that was it.
I'll see if I can play them for you. But
you guys in chat, just go ahead and type in your questions. I'm putting a star on them. We're going to get.
Yeah, we have I have the question line up right there in front of me as Chris is starring them.
Yeah.
Let's see if I think I got them here. Here we go. See if you can hear this. If I can play it for you.
Charlie.
Wow.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
It came through clear.
Yep.
Amazing. Someone had asked on there about the samurai chatter too. I've had one experience where we heard samurai chatter, like gibberish. And if I encourage anybody to Google Scott Nelson and his research on the samurai chatter. He does a fabulous job breaking it down. And basically saying it's a language and such. So if you're interested in the samurai chatter, Google Scott Nelson.
Yep. So let's get to some of the questions here. Kaiju Ninja asked Charlie, are there any differences with Kentucky Bigfoot descriptions compared to the sightings in other states that you were aware of?
I've heard in some states they do have more of sometimes a gorilla-like nose. Sibylla Irwin does sketches. She did a lot of them for the BFRO. She's got some sketches of the gorilla-like nose. So it's a little different. They can be more aggressive, I've heard, in other states. Kentucky, we're friendly. We have a lot of bourbon here, and everybody's happy. And in fact, one of our famous Bigfoots here is nicknamed Howdy because he comes out of the woods and he raises his hand, raises his hand, and then he leaves like howdy. So I like to say our Bigfoots are more friendly in Kentucky. And
that very well could be a learned behavior. Really watching humans, wave to each other, hey, how's it going, neighbor?
Yeah, exactly.
What I think too is a lot of people, and this is only my thought, and of course this is also included in my book, which should be out by May of this year, called The Psychology of Bigfoot, is that sometimes people will their minds will fill in the blanks. Like if they don't see the nose properly or a little bit, they recall it to the best of what their mind is imprinted to them in the past. So if they're getting like, well, it kind of looks like a gorilla nose, it's because that's what they're associating in their mind the closest to. That's why when you talk about, Daniel Boone calling it the Yahoo, because anthropologically, that's probably the closest description he can describe what he saw. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about some of the witnesses describing what they saw. I love it when I ask a witness, and I try not to lead them. Like, what did you see? But sometimes I'll ask them. In fact, just the other night I did an interview with a guy. He saw it with his daughter. His daughter was with him in the car, daytime sighting. And he said, yeah, my daughter saw it first. And when I'm talking on the phone with him, I said, how old is your daughter? And he goes, well, she's 8. Her name is Addie. And she's sitting right here. I go, do you mind if I ask her a couple questions? Oh, no, I don't care. He puts his 8-year-old daughter on the phone, did not know I was going to interview her. And she says, hi. I said, can you tell me what you saw? And she said, a big, hairy thing standing in the road in front of us. And I said, what color was it? She said, black. And I said, because she's young, she can't really elaborate too much. I said, did you see the face? She said, no. I was okay. And I like that when a witness says, no, I didn't see the nose. I didn't see the face. To me, it's more credible almost that, if a young 8-year-old is going to embellish the story, they're going to make it out to be a monster, and big teeth and big eyes. And, she didn't do that. You could tell she's very sincere. She just said, no, I didn't see the face. They're just big and black and hairy, So.
Right. Nice. Want to get to the next question, Chris?
Yeah. Well, I better go up and do them in order. Now, Kaiju Ninja asked about the samurai chatter, but I think he's already covered that, so I'm going to take that one off. Okay, from the Tactical Tactician, Charlie, do you think they learned tactics from early Native Americans or vice versa, and they passed that along to their offspring?
I do think so. And the reason I'll give you some examples, rock stacking. Native Americans would stack rocks or make cairns to mark a trail or an area. And we believe a lot of us speculate the Bigfoots do the same thing, stack rocks possibly to communicate or mark an area. Maybe they bury their dead. They watch us bury our dead. Maybe they do that too. Again, that's speculation on all that. I do have an example in Kentucky though. It was kind of odd. It was a really hot Bigfoot area. Many reports in this area, and there was some amateur. I think they were high school students making a film, a movie, and it was some kind of not a Bigfoot movie. It was some kind of horror movie, and they're out in the woods and they're talking, they're filming, and they heard something. They don't know what it was, so they yelled the term Sasquatch real loud. Right. Oh, that's a Sasquatch. And right after they yelled it, a perfect Bigfoot call comes back, responded to them yelling Sasquatch in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Something yelled back when they yelled the term Sasquatch. So it makes you wonder, like, do they know that's kind of what we call them? Was it responding to that? That's kind of getting out there, but I don't see why not. They could watch us. They can learn from us. What we do. The one waving howdy. I got to add this real quick. Multiple people seen that behavior over a decade. Okay, 2 teens moved to Kentucky. They didn't know about Bigfoot in Kentucky. They didn't know about howdy. They filed a report with the BFRO. Jack Smar took it, and they said this creature walked out of the woods and raised its arm up. And Jack said, "Oh, you saw howdy." That's. I was speaking at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference a couple of years ago, and I told that story. I even have a great what do you call it? A sketch of howdy that Terry Thomas did, and I got it on the big screen of howdy waving its arm. And after my presentation, people are leaving, and this guy runs up to the stage and goes, "Oh my God." I go, "Yeah, what's wrong?" Because you're not going to believe this. In Illinois, when I was a young boy, when my dad was fishing, I was riding my little BMX bike on this little dam, and I would ride down the dam and I would skid, ride back, and I would skid. And the third time I go down there, I skid, I look over to this bush, and this big hulking creature stands up and raises his arm up in the air, just how you described howdy, and put it back down. Like, because it appeared to wave at me. And I love that. I'm like, wow, that's another state. I definitely don't think that was howdy, but
could be just a form of learned behavior. It's learning from us. And why wouldn't it learn if it's eavesdropping, or it may, for whatever reason? I mean, you got to think about it. A dog can learn up to 250 words. That's a dog. So, the office assistant left. But if I say, Cookie, or if I say, go get, like, I can tell him, go get your happy ball, and he'll go run and get the smiling little rubber ball he has that I throw, and I can say, get the lamb chop, and he'll run and get his stuffed lamb chop. So he knows the differences between the different, animals that I ask him to get. So why can't a Bigfoot understand some of that too? If it's listening, or if it's eavesdropping on people talking, somebody says, steak enough time, and they keep pulling steak off that barbecue pit, it may know what a steak is.
Now, I'm going to address this real quick. I want to get this in, because I know Lester there is asking about attacks. And I said before, and I've gotten a bunch of grief over this sometimes when I interview witnesses who've had close encounters. And I will tell the witness, pretty confident, you can go back there. You can go back hunting there. I don't really believe they're going to hurt you.
Right.
Honestly, typically they don't want to. They want to be left alone, so to speak. And I get some grief sometimes. People, oh no, they'll kill you. Don't go back there. And there might have been reports of that, and people go missing. We don't know what killed them or what took them away. But that last report I took was a week ago. They saw that Bigfoot in the daytime. The father and the daughter saw it cross the little dirt road. It's right by a lake. Interesting enough, the witness told me a couple months prior, they found a guy dead in the lake. And it's a murder investigation. They got posters up on the trees. If you have any information about this guy who passed away, please contact us. We're going to file Freedom of Information Act. Is that what Freedom, Steve?
Yes.
We're going to try to
but unfortunately, I'm going to tell you the result of that. It's going to be denied because it's an active investigation.
Oh, okay.
Right. So on any active investigation, the Freedom of Information Act will get basically denied because it's an active investigation.
Okay.
So the release of that knowledge, right? It's not until after, like if they say, okay, we've deemed this an accidental death and the case is closed, then you can file the FOIL request and get those documents.
Right,
or if it's a homicide, then, like there's a lot of missing people in my area that especially related to what we believe is a serial killer. And this is a great segue into why Freedom of Information Act won't work. And these girls, 2 girls have been missing since 2005 and 2006, respectively. Their bodies were found in 2006 and 2009, respectively. And they both were turned up missing within about a half mile of each other in rural Saratoga County. Recently, and it made the national news, there was a girl kidnapped at Moreau State Park, which is at the very northern tip of Saratoga County. They eventually got the girl back and, found the guy at his mother's home, which is where he's resided for the last 20 years. And his house is within that half mile where those 2 girls in the 2000s went missing. Mm-hmm. And to make even more interesting fact was that guy used to live in the same trailer park that one of the girls that went missing lived in as well. So, there's a lot of suspicion, and it brought these 2 girls' names up from almost 20 years ago, which is a great thing. But for me to go and attempt to foil anything from them will be useless because all of this is active investigations. So it makes it really like there's a missing girl too, as well, that I believe is related to a serial killer that was actually out in Alaska who had a lot of connections to New York. And yeah, I can't FOIL request the information they have because they actually found a gentleman with her debit card. And nobody knew how he knew her PIN number, but the police department cleared him. And the serial killer's motive or the serial killer's MO was one of his signatures was getting their the victim's debit cards and, basically getting them to tell him the PIN number, and he would scratch it on the debit card. So is that a possibility of how this guy knew the PIN number? Was it scratched on the card? Because that would directly tie this to this guy. And the funny thing is, this guy enlisted in the Army 3 months after this girl went missing in the same city the girl went missing. So there's a lot of connections there.
And I appreciate that because we were going to try to do that. And I wanted to mention about the guy that was dead. When I took this report, I'm going, oh my gosh, everybody's going to jump to the conclusion this Bigfoot killed that man.
Right.
And I wanted to find out how he died. Maybe blunt force trauma. Was it a gunshot? They suspect foul play from the poster. It says, it's a murder investigation. But now that I can't look that up,
right,
I might add that in the story just because it happened. But
you might want to see if there maybe perhaps is a local witness that be willing to talk to you, because nothing per se, as long as you don't interfere with the investigation, maybe you can talk to some of the locals. Do we know how he was basically killed? Some say, oh, he was beaten. Well, that's not going to help the story. Some may say, oh, he was shot. Some may say he was stabbed. You won't know unless you ask the questions, but I would at least try to find out in certain ways, read up as many articles as you can on that to see if maybe they slip up and give but a lot of times the manner of death is hidden from the public because they don't want false confessions.
Right.
They don't want somebody, I did it. And, so that's the reason why they hide that stuff necessarily.
And Steve, I just wanted to jump out real quick. Mick Syfan and Ron Bowles came in. So welcome, guys. Good to see you.
He must have heard the whippoorwill.
Ron came in and Ron might have left.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Can I make a shout out to the tackle tactician?
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about the legend of the the Gobble by Yellow Banks.
The Gobber Gooble.
Yeah, if you guys want to listen to a terrific Bigfoot song, his son recorded this song. It's straight up Kentucky, kind of like a southern rock twang to it. It's. I'm gonna, in fact, just ask him if I can use that in one of our documentaries. Mm-hmm. But if you want to listen to a really good Bigfoot song, the Gobble.
Yeah, the Gobble. The Goober Gobble. Gobbler.
Goober is a goober gobber. But yeah, it's hard. I will tell you this. I'm going to tell you this honestly. I've had some people who do podcasts want to pay me money, $20, to send them encounters of people that were attacked by Bigfoot, or because those people tend to enjoy more of the Bigfoot attacking. And I hate to say, but I think some of those are made up. I mean, I think some of those things, people get paid to get on these shows and tell these crazy stories and embellish them. And
hey, why not? I'll get on a show for an hour and make $20.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just going based on my research and my witnesses. And again, I've had many, many sightings, close encounters, like daytime, 30 yards or less. Sometimes I've had a couple 20 feet. And the Bigfoot just looks at the witness. Witness looks at the Bigfoot. Witness decides it's best to go, and the Bigfoot walks away. The Bigfoot
concurs.
Yeah, the Bigfoot could have easily grabbed him, killed him, hurt him. I have him look in the window of a car. The face of the Bigfoot was right in the window, the side window. The boy is sitting in the front seat, and the Bigfoot's face is right in the window. And could have smashed the window and grabbed the boy, never did.
Sure.
I got so many reports of that.
One of the frequently asked questions, and I've been on the lecture circuit for a long time too. One of the questions I always get asked is that, do Bigfoot attack people? And if they do, it's a rarity because, even studies show that primates of one species rarely attack primates of other species, even when there's territory, even when that one species enters the territory of another species territory. So when that occurs, they'll do everything a traditional Bigfoot will do. They will act out. They will throw things. They will give them escorts. They will scream. They will act up, but they rarely attack them. So that's a rarity for
Yeah.
What I think about the only reported attack was that Ford guy over from the Boggy Creek thing.
Right. What's his name?
I think he was a Ford, but I don't remember
his Ford.
Name.
Bobby Ford. Yep. And he didn't really get attacked. He ran into the Bigfoot and got knocked down. That's that came from directly from Lyle Blackburn. That it wasn't really an attack. It was he ran out there and ran into it, and he fell down because it traumatized him. So
I could see that.
Yep. Sure. Okay, so let's get back to questions. Any theory on pop sounds?
Pop, like a mouth,
like a mouth pop. That maybe we're hearing that instead of a tree knock. It's a mouth pop.
Yeah, but I mean, think of the size of them, right? We could do it pretty loud. I know people can make really loud mouth pops with their hands or their mouth. Mm-hmm. Very loud mouth pops that do sound. I can make a hand clap that almost sounds like a knock.
Yeah.
And a Bigfoot's more powerful than me. So right. People sometimes think it's the mouth pop, the hand clap instead of a knock. I've heard both. So it's probably the same purpose as the whistles and the whoops and kind of like a location thing or warning that there's people nearby or who knows, but
let's go to this question real quick because I can answer this one. I don't think Charlie really wants to give his, particular areas away. And that's to explain that's just pure crime scene etiquette. Is that you don't want to you say, oh yes, well it occurred here off of the street because that may this podcast may get in the hands of the wrong person, and they'll go out and start stamping tracks out or interfering with an ongoing investigation. So I don't really, Charlie mentioned Anderson County. I don't want him to get any more specific than that for the show.
Honestly, I could. The reason why I could on Anderson County is not one of my research areas, even though it's got the most sightings. I've got other areas. The reason why Anderson County, I could kind of let you know a little bit. A lot of it's on private property, and it's along the Kentucky River. So the question about Anderson County, if you just follow the Kentucky River and go to Google Earth, where there's a lot of forest, that's where you want to go. Anywhere along the Kentucky River in Anderson County is a really good area.
Now I'm going to ask a question. We'll get to we got 3 more questions in the queue here, and a couple of them may be actually relevant to what I'm going to ask you. Is have you been to LBL?
Oh yes, many times.
And your thoughts on the LBL and some of the sightings that have occurred there?
Okay, so I've taken Bigfoot reports in the LBL. A really good one that I took recently, Mike Smith. In fact, they just featured him on Small Town Monsters, the latest episode at LBL. He's on there. He was my witness. He's on my YouTube channel as well. He was fishing with his family daytime, and they anchored, and they're going to cook some hot dogs on a little grill on the shore. And he heard people, or he thought it were people. He heard walking above him on the ridge, and he looked to his wife and said, keep a lookout. There's no trail up there. It's just forest, but something is walking around up there. So he proceeded to cook his hot dogs. And when they're getting ready to leave, he hears a loud tree knock. And he says to his son, he goes, man, that's what Bigfoots do. I'm going to, just jokingly, he grabs a stick and knocks back, and another knock comes from down the shore. And they all got excited. They're like, oh my gosh. So they get back in the boat and they slowly go down the shoreline, and they heard the mother and daughter heard a deep guttural growl. Mike didn't hear it because he's by the motor, and they heard a deep guttural growl and they got scared. And Mike is looking up in between the trees and sees the Bigfoot standing there looking at him. And he said, man, it was quick. It turned. Before it turned, though, the interesting thing he said, the hair was reddish brown, but when it would kind of move a little bit in the shadows, it would almost change color. And almost like people say cloak, or it would almost turn invisible the way it was moving and the light was hitting it. The hair could refract the light. It could absorb the light. Who knows what the hair does? But he said it was really weird how it was standing there and almost changing color from reddish brown to almost black. And then it took off, and he goes, I can see why people don't get a video, because it was so darn quick. There's no way I could have got my phone up to take a video of this thing, and it ran off. We did a full investigation there. So there's Bigfoots there, and there's Dogman there, which if you know anything about LBL in Kentucky, there's some Dogman stories as well. It's a creepy area. In fact, is when I took my wife there for the first time, right, she got the creeps. And I was with Don Neal too. I think Don Neal, he might still be in the chat. It was Don Neal and somebody else, and we were there. We heard something. I'm asking my wife. She's sitting over there.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi. Hello.
What did we hear? We're with Don Neal and Don Atkins.
Don Atkins.
What did Don Atkins? Yeah.
Yeah, Don Atkins.
We
heard some distant howls.
Distant howls.
Some of the creepiest eye shine I've ever seen.
Yeah, some really wild eye shine. Henry says hi to you, Lindsay. Henry goes to all the conferences. Any Bigfoot conference you go to, you're going to see Henry, right?
And then we went into a creepy graveyard, and we had a tree get pushed over.
Oh yeah, we were like doing our night investigations, and a group of us went up to this graveyard, and as soon as we entered the graveyard, a tree falls. Can't say it's pushed, but boosh. scared the daylights out of us. As soon as we got in the graveyard, there's no wind, no nothing. And when we left, we were with Daniel that night at LBL, and Lindsay and I left, and we're driving slow, and you were looking out the window and saw two sets of eyes, large eyes.
I was actually reflecting white light.
Oh, you weren't supposed to do that.
I know.
She was actually shooting a little flashlight out the window. She was an amateur. You got to give her some slack.
Hey, yeah.
But she was like spotlighting Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And hit two sets of big eyes. So she said, "Stop the car, look." And I got a glimpse of them. They were big and they're up high, and and they were yellowish. Someone was asking the color. Yellowish. And I stupidly open my door and walk around the truck to that side. And then the eyes just duck down, like behind some bush. I'm like, okay, where'd they go?
And speaking of the devil, Alex has said, "Sup, everybody just tuning in." Was talking about the LBL on the Small Town Monsters channel.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, it's on there now. Watch LBL and the Small Town Monsters. Alec is part of that.
Yep.
That's a really
I
good
was just out with Alex in the field just a couple of days ago. So he was part of that New Hampshire investigation I did, which was awesome. Yeah. And Alex, just to show everybody real quick, I mean, Alex did throw up his drone, and what a beautiful shot of the drone that we have, the drone footage we have of the area. I mean, look how crystal clear that is. But that's the benefit of having a drone of that caliber to go up and scout around to see if there's anything close to us, near us, that can be spotted from the air on a clear day like that, and a sunny day like that, where you can see. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
no. My buddy Brent, who is also a BFRO investigator as well, he bought a state-of-the-art thermal drone, and we took it out. We took it out over the winter time. We did a little Bigfoot guys weekend, and we wanted to play with his drone, and we set it up. Again, it's wintertime, no leaf cover, but it's still thick forest. And we did an experiment when we had somebody walk in the woods. You can see him plain as day, walking through the woods with his drone. It was amazing.
Nice.
Now,
and what I love is that, that you guys are actually employing the drone technology. You're not just talking about, you're actually going out there and doing it. And we applaud that. So very much.
Yeah.
So.
I think the drone technology is going to bring us our next best video. I bet.
Yeah. Likely so. Either by a conventional drone like Alex without the film, where you're going to get it real good in, it's 4K. It's shot in 4K. So, or you're going to get it on a thermal drone where it's trying to hide from us and it thinks it's hidden pretty well, but yet we can still peek in through that canopy.
Get me a drone, one of the cheap drones, and wrap some barbed wire on it and fly one. If I see one, I fly right to death from above. Here we go.
Kamikaze.
Get some hair in that barbed wire.
So let's dispel the myth of something. Two questions about the LBL is, number one, is there a lot of areas in the LBL that are untouched by people?
I doubt it.
Okay.
It's not that big. It's not as big as you think. It's surrounded by two lakes, the Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. And it's big, but I'm pretty sure everybody has been to every location in LBL. There's a graveyard on every dirt road you go on. There's a graveyard. People hunt it, fish it, go Bigfooting there.
Because
the
where
controversy.
I was in LBL, there was a mountain or a rather large cliff, and it didn't look like and it was off to our right. And looking at the lake, it was off to our right, and it didn't look like anybody could get up there without, being a real, trying a go-getter. So, I do think there are areas that are just, you're not going to have everybody on every single square foot of it, but.
And plus, as you know, they're so smart. As soon as you get out of your vehicle, they're going to take off. You know, they don't want to be seen maybe. So by the time you get to that cliff, they're gone.
Yeah.
So,
And the other kicker is question is that how deserted is it there at night? I mean, are there a lot of people wandering around, fairly amount of people, or
it's not bad. All the times I've been there, it's not super crowded. No, I mean, but I do know a lot of people go there squatching. A lot of people go hunting, camping, fishing. It's pretty popular. I will tell you this: we were doing an expedition in there, and we come out of this area, and all of a sudden, no joke, 3 sheriff deputies get behind us, and there was like we had like 4 vehicles and 3 sheriff deputies get behind us. Like, oh crap, because I was doing a expedition. I think it was for the BFRO. I'm not sure. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to pull us over. And sure enough, they pull us over. So the funny part was I'm in the back vehicle. The cops pull the front guy over, and it was oh my God, it doesn't matter his name. I can't think of his name, but anyway, he gets out of the car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have a confrontation or something, because you don't get out of a car when a police officer pulls you over. You stay in your vehicle. He gets out and talking. I'm like, oh my gosh. So he walks over to his back tailgate and lifts it up, and he pulls out a Bigfoot cast, and he hands the Bigfoot cast to the sheriff deputy. And then I see him laughing. So I get out of my vehicle and I walk up, and they began to tell us stories of Bigfoot reports in the area. They were totally on board with it. They thought we were doing drugs back there. They were worried that we were back there doing drugs. But I will tell you this: if you go Bigfooting somewhere, right, and you come out of the woods, and the sheriff, and this has happened to me, if you get pulled over, don't tell them you're just back there messing around.
Be truthful.
If you say you're looking for Bigfoot, they laugh and they let you go.
I'll give you a great example too. Is like we had set up a little surveillance. Me and Chuck Adnolfi. We see him every once in a while in the chat. Chuck Truther in the chat, and we were sitting, watching this area, and we could see because it was very flat, going out to the mountain, and this was off a sheriff's department report that we heard a 911 call go out in that area at the soccer camp. And the funny thing is I knew of a previous encounter at the soccer camp years ago, back in the late 80s. And this is basically kind of the next mountain range over from my research area. So it's not out of the range of their, and again, the soccer camp, rural community, the soccer camp is there and there's nothing else around for acres. And while we were there, a car pulls up behind us. It was the guy who owned the lot. And Chuck was like, well, what should we say? I said, we'll just tell him the truth. So I think, oh, well, here's my business card. This is, what we do. And we heard there was a report here, over at the soccer camp. And the guy proceeded to tell us the details of it because he was the neighbor of the soccer camp. So by just telling him who you are, we elicited the details of the actual 911 call, which was awesome. It was better than anything, any Freedom of Information Act can do. Sometimes you get that, which reminds me, I talk about a couple of Freedom of Information Acts on my old blog that I used to do when I used to write a lot. And I got a contact from somebody who lived in the area at the time of those. And he goes on to tell me his stories about that. So there'll be more to that in a little bit. But so it's always, I agree with you 1,000% being on board with, you get pulled over, just tell them the truth. Because if not, it's going to look bad.
Yeah. And there's a report I took where a lady was driving home late. She saw a large shadowy creature standing by a fence post. So she slowed down. She can see it was humanoid. And she's by herself on this little desolate road, and she got scared. So she hit the gas. But as soon as she hit the gas, she looked in her rear view mirror, and the creature ran right behind her car and the taillights, she can see it, was covered in hair, ran right behind her. The next day, she called Fish and Game and reported it. And so the funny part about the story was, she said, when she called, she said, "Ma'am, I saw a large animal in the area." And the officer on the phone said, "Well, yeah, we've got some reports of something big in the area." And the witness goes, "Well, ma'am, I mean to tell you that I think it was a Bigfoot." And the officer chuckled and said, I shouldn't tell you this, but that's what people are seeing.
Okay.
So she divulged,
Wow.
that they're getting calls about this Bigfoot in the area.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's true. I mean, I have an inside source, and he called me up and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this in this particular area?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "Well, you have now." So
I had another one that someone mentioned the Salt River earlier, and I replied to it. In Kentucky, the Salt River is a corridor for Bigfoot reports and activity. It goes all the way from Taylorsville Lake, which is in Anderson County, the edge of it, all the way through over past Fort Knox to the Ohio River. And the reason I bring that up, in Bullitt County, where the Salt River goes through Bullitt County, there's a sheriff deputy that's had multiple Bigfoot sightings. He's a sheriff deputy. He was on Finding Bigfoot. He was in the episode on Finding Bigfoot with the Turtle Man, and we're sitting by the fire. He's the sheriff deputy sitting to my left, I think, who had multiple sightings. So he went on national TV to talk about it. Anyway, I befriended him. He took me in the woods. He told me about his sightings in Bullitt County. And where am I going with this? Oh, he gave me a list of 911 transcripts of people calling in about seeing these men in monkey suits. It's April, it was June, and a lady was driving down Cedar Grove Road, and it was like midnight, and she said 2 men in gorilla suits ran in front of my car.
2. Wow.
2 men in gorilla suits. They don't even acknowledge Bigfoot's real, nor that it's in Kentucky. They just said men in gorilla suits ran in front of my car. You looked at these 911 reports, and they're amazing. But anyway, I put it on my website. So if you went to my website and you looked under Bullitt County, I had 911 calls, right? And about a month later, the sheriff deputy goes, "Can you take those off your website? Because people are panicking."
Yeah.
Okay. So I took them off.
Yeah, the 76 flat people were panicking too, because it was making the newspapers that, here's a police sergeant getting tracks, and there's reports, and even there was a group of law enforcement officers from 3 different agencies that had seen the creature at a distance. And this all got reported, and it actually culminated with the Brian Gosling story with where he put the gun in the light at that. But yeah, it created quite the panic, and Brian caught a lot of guff from it for many, many years. But at least nowadays, he's kind of being revered as the local hero, which is, much to we've kind of turned the tide of the town's, originally the town wanted to kind of not talk about it. And over the years, thanks to efforts of Paul Bartholomew and Dan Gordon, the late Dan Gordon, and even Brian Gosling, kind of turned the tide on that. Now they embrace it. They have a huge Sasquatch calling festival every year. Last year we had over 2,000 people there. So the town's now embracing it, which is good because it's allowing people now to come forward and tell their stories rather than trying to keep their mouths zipped about it. So next question. I'm trying to.
We might have covered most of them.
Yep, we got 3 more. Would I be likely? This is from Hayden6624. Welcome to the show, Hayden. Would I be more likely to have a Bigfoot encounter in the Red River Gorge geological area or Clifty Wilderness? Asking because I plan on camping in an area many times this summer.
Oh, well, I hope you're not camping alone.
Yeah.
No, I'll say it for many reasons, but Clifty Wilderness is where there's been multiple reports. Fact is, one of my first witnesses, Rodney Adams, he's on the Travel Channel. These woods are terror in the woods.
Terror in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or These Woods Are Haunted was that episode. And Rodney goes on national TV to talk about his Bigfoot sighting in the Clifty Wilderness area. Swift Camp, if she's listening, Swift Camp Road, Swift Camp Creek, and the Wildcat Trail, I believe, is where that was. But yeah, the Clifty Wilderness, Red River Gorge, lots of reports throughout that area. But again, they tend to come into the camp or observe. They don't really, I have no reports of them being aggressive. Lots of tree knocks, sightings, but really nothing aggressive in that area, which is good.
Cool. And
Nice.
so if you end up with a kidnapping episode, if you can get free, come back and tell us about it.
Yeah.
And that's the Kaiju Ninja 1985 ask, are there any reported kidnappings by Bigfoot in Kentucky? Something like the Albert Osmond story.
Yeah.
No. But on my bucket list, I want to sleep out under the stars, just on a pad, no tent, in a really squatchy area. Of course, with a couple of friends near me and my trusty dog and my brave wife, maybe.
But don't forget your can of snuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't think there's anything like that. Here's the thing. There's none reported, put it that way. There's people that go missing. If you're missing 411 and you don't know, some of those cases, they never find the individual, or you can always speculate what happened to them, but there's nothing reported of a kidnapping or somebody being hurt in Kentucky by a Bigfoot.
And if you think about it, folks, you can take all your missing 411 stories, and some of them can be explained like by hypothermia. Very clear. Mm-hmm. There was one in Colorado where the guy started taking his clothes off, and there was a big to-do about that. Oh, well, why would he take his clothes off when he was so cold? Because one of the side effects of hypothermia is actually making you believe you're hot.
Start burning up.
You start burning up.
Yeah.
And David, if you listen to David, he has all these criteria for these. And a lot of them are severe weather. The person is sometimes, I don't know, just say mentally handicapped, or there's something going on with the person.
They're an at-risk person, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of these things which could be the reason why they're missing.
Right.
Not so much Bigfoot.
Right. I always tend to think also that if you recall, there are people, there have been a lot of killings in the forests. And I don't know the one guy's name, but he actually, I think he was at Yosemite, and he was killing women in Yosemite. And of course they would disappear, and then eventually they would find the bodies, and it led to this guy. The same thing with people like the Green River Killer, who dumped the bodies in, rural areas. You have Israel Keys, who would actually put the bodies in national parks or in state parks. And Israel Keys is the guy, I believe, may be responsible for the disappearance of that girl in Albany I spoke of earlier, who would have them etch their debit cards, but he would put them in the woods too. And to this day, that would kind of explain why we've never found this missing girl. He also buried kill kits all over. So, think about it, that a killer's natural habitat is going to be somewhere where they can do their deeds and not be discovered. Yeah. And that would be our forests.
Well, because think about it, in the cities, there are cameras everywhere now.
Right.
Every house has a doorbell camera, or, you can't get away with almost anything in cities or neighborhoods, but the forests, not as many cameras.
There is a question that is asked me directly. Steve, I remember someone saying a Vermont state trooper came to the A-Bear scene. Can you verify? That was actually a New York state trooper. So that'll basically what had occurred was is Brian was sitting in his own personal vehicle on one side of the road. The trooper was down the road a little bit, facing the other way. And when the creature came by, the trooper took off and spun out. Brian eventually met the trooper at a diner, who he remains anonymous and the trooper was drinking coffee and did not want to talk about it. So, and of course, being a state trooper, that's even more heat on you than being a local yokel type of police officer and saying you've seen a Bigfoot. So, do you know the Tom Messick story?
Tom Messick.
Okay. That's fine.
And I think that's an Anderson County story, Charlie. I think wasn't Tom Messick the deer hunter that had his son with him?
I believe so.
That's not the same one.
No, that's not. The deer hunter that had his son with him was. My memory's going. Shoot, it's not Tom.
So, I noticed today that that Bill finding the trackway has been very well behaved, but yet we have yet another platypus. Has there been platypus spotted in the Red River, or those tails fall flat? Okay, so it's time for Ralph the Rating Coyote to rate that joke. Well, thank you again, Ralph.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, Bill tries to goad Ralph to come out and do his business. So,
how was Messick's last name spelled?
Messick.
Where was Tom's report? The person that asked that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Do they know where in Kentucky?
Oh, okay. Disappearance of
Kaiju Ninja says, I think Trackway needs to be banned for that joke.
He's a missing 411 case. So
okay.
That was in, I think it's listed in Whitehall.
Oh, Tom Messick. Yes. Bingo. Now it's coming back to me. Tom Messick was a gentleman who went missing in Warren County, New York, near Lily Pond. So, and I have actually been squatching out in the Lily Pond area with
elderly hunter. Yeah.
Right. He was an elderly hunter. They haven't found any of his belongings, I think. I'm not an expert on his missing case because to me, as a local, it sounds like to me the guy just got on the wrong path in bad weather and disappeared. And he was an elderly hunter, I believe in his late 70s, maybe even early 80s, that but I know the guy from CARC, the Catskill Appalachian Research crew. I'm calling them crew, it's collective, but they are doing a documentary on Tom Messick. And I will say this. Yep, there it is. Mike Lucy, the CARC guys. We're doing Tom Messick, not sure when that's coming out. Thanks. But I will say this. Well, I'm going to hold off. That's for them to say, and I will have them on when their documentary pops up. But there's some things that I think got overplayed in the telling of that story for the sake of television's sake. So let me just leave it at that. That's the word out on the street.
We'll watch their new documentary when it comes out.
Yep.
Pretty cool. But it is an interesting case. It's like makes you scratch your head.
Right. Now, Mary says there was a guy found dead near my house in the woods after a party. As I recall, he had been hit in the head, but no footprints from shoes as they taken off their shoes. No one was charged. ? Well, sounds like to me as an investigator, and I'm sure Lindsay would probably agree. It sounds like the guy was at a party, got intoxicated, took off without his shoes or took his shoes off for whatever reason, fell and hit his head. And that's what caused his death. So that sounds more of the likely story than the story of, well, Bigfoot came out, attacked him, and then took his shoes, or,
Yeah.
Ron
Bowles says hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Ron.
Lindsay says hi, Ron.
So we are at the quarter of the end of the show. So we got 15 minutes left to show. So if anybody's got any questions, let's get them out there. Well, go ahead. All right, Chris, you're up.
Yeah, I've been waiting for everybody to get through with the list here, but I wanted to ask Charlie. Charlie, in your opinion, do you think it's better to go out searching for Bigfoot during the day or at night, or do you do both?
Both. There's sightings during the day and night. I've had activity during the day and night. In fact, I'll give you one example. I took Lindsay out here in the gorge when she first moved here to an area that's had lots of sightings, rocks being thrown in the creek and etc. And we went out in the middle of the day, and I told Lindsay, grab 2 rocks from the creek and make rock clacks, which are similar to tree knocks. And she did it the first time, and 1 rock broke. And I said, grab 2 rocks again. She does 3 rock clacks. And I'll just tell listeners, 3 means something. I've had great luck doing 3 knocks, 3 whistles, 3 rock clacks, what have you. And when she did those 3 rock clacks, we heard a distinct knock on the ridge above us. Clear as day, bam. And it was so clear, Lindsay even said, oh, that's most likely a person. Okay, do it again, Lindsay. She does it again, nothing. I go, do it again, Lindsay, nothing. And I like that because you almost get that knee-jerk reaction. The Bigfoot did it, and then all of a sudden looked over the edge, oh, the stupid humans, and left. No. If it was a person messing with us, you would think they would keep knocking back to us or whoop or howl. Or,
right.
And we were the only car at the gate to the trailhead. There's no other cars there. There's no trails up there. I've explained to Lindsay, it's a high cliff. There's just dense forest in the gorge. There are no trails there. It was a clear knock, and I've got knocks daytime, nighttime. Now, here's my theory. Listen to this. So I tend to think Bigfoot sleep in a, what do you call it? A polyphasic sleep cycle, meaning a multiple sleep cycle where they would sleep, say, 4 to 6 hours, and they would hunt 4 to 6 hours, right? Because we get reports of Bigfoots in the daytime and nighttime, and maybe there's a sentry stand guard that kind of will knock and alert if humans come close, because you get the loud home run knocks in the daytime, nighttime. But there's a lot of advantages to sleeping every 4 to 6 hours and then hunting every 4 to 6 hours. One, you're less likely to be walked up by a hunter or hiker, right? There's medical benefits. There's research. If you take lots of naps, there's benefits to the brain of sleeping in a polyphasic sleep cycle as opposed to what we do. So maybe Bigfoots do that. They are active, say, certain times of the day, then they take a nap, they sleep 4 hours, then they get up and they move, they hunt for food, and they just repeat this cycle because we get reports daytime and nighttime of Bigfoots.
Right. Let me go to this question real quick. I heard a theory earlier that said the trapper from the Bauman story was by Teddy Roosevelt, actually was TR himself because he was the bowman on his college rowing crew. Well, in actuality, the Bauman tale is spelled Baumen, or A-N rather, and not Bowman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe, but that's kind of a stretch. So, but yeah, it's not spelled the same way.
And I used to think too, in the past, that the full moon was a bad time to go looking for Bigfoot because there's less cover. It's more of a risk for them to move around on a full moon. However, in the last 5 years on my expeditions, I've had multiple eyewitness sightings during a full moon. There were juvies. So maybe juvies don't get the memo, don't walk around when there's a full moon, because they're a little bit more careless than the adults. But
I think ecologically, I think ecologically speaking, it doesn't matter what the solar phases. They need to eat. They need to get drinks. They need to do their roaming every day. So I don't think it really has any relevance, except maybe you have a likelihood of seeing them a little more clearly in the full moon.
Yeah, someone asked me about Kentucky nests in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Now there was the one they found. It was on Expedition Bigfoot, southern Kentucky, near, was it Pine Mountain? Anyway, they found a nest, and of course they did an eDNA, and it came back some type of, in the chimpanzee family. It wasn't exactly a chimpanzee. It was some kind of primate. Wasn't specific, I guess. But that was a nest in southern Kentucky. I think it was near Pine Mountain.
And my only question to that is, in the very same episode, they were playing with chimp pheromone chips.
Yeah.
So, and we know their penchant for not being completely, at least the filmmakers themselves, not being completely honest about certain aspects. There was the marble incident. I think that was season 2. And then there was the whole Antoine Ranch for season 1, where they made this thing to be out of Cinnabar mine when actually it was an old gold mine and all that other stuff. So I kind of take anything Expedition Bigfoot with a grain of salt, kind of like the Alaskan killer Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Where I remember watching that series and getting frustrated because every time they would get something, they would run away. Oh, run away. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, I can hear the Monty Python. They run away.
Yeah.
But I said, I remember sitting there and I looked at my wife, Sherry. I'm like, it's getting towards the end of the last episode. I go, something's going to happen. They're all packing up. Watch, something's going to happen just before they leave it a cliffhanger. Watch. Oh my God, the place is on fire. So I suppose now the Alaskan killer Bigfoot's an arsonist.
Yeah. Trying to learn how to use fire, and look what happened.
Springfield, Kentucky was my sighting. Gerald. Hey, Gerald, after the show, can I get your phone number and take your interview?
There you go.
Yeah, I need to contact Gerald, Springfield, Kentucky. I've got other reports in Springfield, Kentucky.
So how can he reach out to you, Charlie? Just so.
Can I put my number in there?
I would worry about your phone number. How about an email address?
All right, email. So Gerald, here's my email. It's real simple. Charlie at Kentucky Bigfoot. So Gerald, I love to take your report. Oh, what happened? It didn't work.
Oh no.
It's blocked.
I don't know why. Okay, so it's Charlie.
It says this comment has failed to post.
Steve. Yeah. Maybe.
Charlie at KentuckyBigfoot.com.
Maybe you got to have a gear before you post a email address. Maybe something about
there we go.
Catching links and stuff. There
I don't know why that did that. Okay,
I live. Oh, you spoken with me, Gerald. I live for documenting eyewitness encounters. I get to live vicariously through them. I love to hear their emotion, the detail. It adds to my research, my database of sightings, and etc.
Yeah.
So,
and mind you, Charlie wasn't documenting the way a few years ago when you probably spoke to him. Charlie wasn't documenting it the way he's doing now. He'd like to get that story out there, so if other people have stories, they too can add to that database of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Here's Zach. Can I answer this? This is my son, Zach. He's on.
Yep.
He said, what about when we got the coyotes howling in response to our knocks? Do coyotes hunt with Bigfoots? So I took my son out and we did tree knocks and the coyotes went off. and I've had this happen before, and I've got more stories. There's more to it. There's actually a sighting. We actually had a sighting on my expedition right after we had done tree knocks and got the coyotes. Coyotes actually came to us with the tree knocks. And then right after that, we had a Bigfoot sighting. I kind of said that's a dinner bell. Like the coyotes know the tree knocks, go to the tree knocks because there's Bigfoot, and Bigfoot's kill deer, and we're scavengers and we can eat the remains of the deer. Because I do believe there's a relationship between the coyotes and the Bigfoots, that they follow the Bigfoots looking for scraps. Maybe they even hunt together. There's some kind of relationship with the coyotes and Bigfoots. I do believe that.
Or perhaps the Bigfoots are following the coyotes too. You know, the coyotes may grab something and find it, and then they're like, okay, get the coyotes out of the way. It's mine now. Because I remember a specific time in LBL when we heard a bunch of coyotes yapping, and then all of a sudden one of them sounded like it was getting torn apart. Mm-hmm. It sounded like it was getting hurt. It was screaming. And then after that, silence, and then we had this howl. And that was it. No more coyotes, no more nothing. Everything went silent. And that was an LBL. So that was kind of a weird experience I had there.
Yeah, it's either there's either some sort of relationship there, or it's possibly, it could be a coincidence, but so many coincidences happening, you know.
Hey, Chris, look at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh, no. I gotta get another one in for Charlie though.
All right,
go ahead.
Because Charlie, you mentioned the eye shine earlier, where when Lindsay was shining the light through the window, and I was wondering. Okay, you said it was kind of a yellowish color. Mm-hmm. Do you remember? And I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you remember the kind of flashlight she was using? Was it like a regular light with an incandescent, or the regular flashlight bulb, or was it a LED?
Do you remember?
I don't remember what kind of flashlight it was, but it was just a regular white light, and I was looking to pick up eye shine while we were driving. That's exactly why I was doing it.
Yeah, Charlie, so don't pick on her for being a noob at that point.
She was new and didn't know any better, but
that was the first. I think that might have been the only time I've been to LBL.
Was it like one of the flashlights that uses like a couple of D batteries?
No, it wasn't one of those. Okay, those old school ones. No, it was more like a mag light, a smaller one.
So what do you get when you add like an orange or a red to a white light? Is you can get a shade of yellow. Mm-hmm. Again, the eye shine color can be answered by a number of different things.
Yeah, and I've got all kinds. I've got whitish blue, yellow, red. It depends on the source, I think, of what the eyes reflect. But I've got but the key to the eye shine, the size and the distance between the eyes is crucial. When they're far apart and they're massive and they're up high, and that's what you look for.
Right. So anyway, Chris, it is that time where we got to do our thing. It's been it has been so quick, and it happens when you have good conversation.
Yeah. Once again, I want to thank Charlie Raymond for coming on with us. And just my Kentucky Bigfoot is my favorite, absolutely favorite subject. Because, hey, Kentucky.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everybody over the chat too for joining us, and we appreciate having you. And we're both pleased and honored that you guys have you. I mean, such a great audience. I mean, I'm sorry, I know I brag on you guys a lot, but it's true. And if it's your first time watching, though, if you hadn't already subscribed, punch that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. And if you have already subscribed, thank you. We appreciate you. And,
of course, that's right. I want to thank Charlie for coming on tonight. It's been a couple of years, so it's great to have you hit the rotation again over here and tell some. I mean, last couple of years, you've been doing a lot of stuff on YouTube. You can check out Charlie's link to his YouTube channel down below. We will get that book in as well. I have a copy of it. It's a great read. It's got a lot of great stories and encounters in them. So definitely. And Charlie, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you guys. I truly enjoyed it.
And it's always fun having a good Bigfoot conversation too. So folks, on next week, and we do want to throw out our condolences to next week's guest, Darren Lee, from the Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center. Darren's mother-in-law passed this past week, so hopefully he still will be on next week, and if not, that's okay. But he is our scheduled guest for next week. And again, our condolences to you, Darren. And for everybody out there, thank you for your support. The channel has been hopping. Not only has the chat been hopping, but the channel's been hopping. We've had, to all our new subscribers, you had made February 2024 the best month for additions to new subscribers. So that in of itself is amazing. So thank you for being here. And thank you to all our members who help this channel operate even better. And we continue to get even better every week. So, we're able to give our membership some training and some of our private thoughts rather than what we do here publicly. And if you're not a channel member, consider joining the membership, because there's a few little added benefits there that make it worthwhile. And it only begins at 99 cents a month. So for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can have all those benefits. Anyway, again, thank you to Charlie. I want to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe week. Be vigilant out there. God bless. And most of all, keep on squatching. We'll catch you all next week, this Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Bigfoot News. We'll see you all live then. Catch you all in bed.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.